Is this a bored child or a threat to public safety? Someone who saw him pacing around a Cleveland park was worried enough to call the police.
The guy keeps pulling it in out of his pants. It's probably fake, but you know what? He's scaring the guy.
A patrol car arrives at the scene, and seconds later...
Shots fired, male down, black male, maybe 20, black revolver, black handgun.
Tamir Rice, who was 12 years old, died later in hospital. His family wanted these recordings released, and the police obliged.
This is not an effort to exonerate. It's not an effort to show the public that anybody did anything wrong.
Well, now to the outrage and the search for answers after a white police officer shot and killed a black woman in her own home through her bedroom window. ABC's Marcus Moore has the story.
Atiana Jefferson!
Atiana Jefferson!
Overnight, protesters flooding the streets.
No justice, no peace!
We're tired of this injustice.
Anger rising following the shooting death of 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson, killed in her home by a Fort Worth police officer.
I'm calling about my neighbor.
The incident sparked by a phone call made by a concerned neighbor. In the newly released audio, Atatiana's neighbor tells police he noticed her front door was open around 2:24 in the morning and called a police non-emergency line to ask for a welfare check.
I haven't seen anybody moving around. It's not normal for them to have both of the doors open this time of night.
The neighbor unsure of whether Atatiana was home at the time.
You know if anyone is inside?
No, I'm not sure. Both of the cars are there.
The dispatcher immediately sent officers to her home. This body cam video shows the moment the encounter turns deadly. The responding officer is not heard identifying himself as he approaches Jefferson's bedroom window and begins shouting commands.
Put your hands up, show me your hands.
Within moments, he fires one deadly shot through the window.
This is less than a second. I had an expert slow it down. It was 0.6 seconds between the command and the shot. There was no time for them to perceive a threat from a weapon. There was no time for her to respond.
Prosecutors using more dash cam video to build their murder case against a fired Balch Springs police officer.
The video shows the traffic stop after 15-year-old Jordan Edwards was shot by Officer Roy Oliver. The teenager's brothers and friends were in the car with him.
Looking at side-by-side video of Balch Springs police officers Tyler Gross on left, Roy Oliver's recording system on the right as the shooting of Jordan Edwards is about to unfold. The forensic video expert witness hired by prosecutors is Grant Fredericks.
Side by side, we get to see what both of those cameras independently recorded, but at the same moment in time.
Timing is what this testimony is about. Officer Gross is yelling for the car to stop, and from the time he breaks the rear passenger side window to the first shot by Oliver is...
It's about 358 milliseconds. That's thousandths of a second, just slightly over a third of a second.
Frederick asked by First Assistant District Attorney Mike Snipes how long it takes Oliver to fire 5 rounds into the car carrying Jordan Edwards.
About 0.993 seconds.
That's less than 1 full second. Listen again. And Frederick's analysis shows the car was driving away from the officers when the shots were fired.
Officer Gross is not in the position to be impacted by the vehicle. The vehicle is moving away from the officer.
Fredericks says his work shows
the subject vehicle steered away from Officer Gross and Officer Oliver prior to the shots.
A terrifying scene at Mission Bay's De Anza Cove today as police surrounded this armed man who refused to give himself up. Well, tonight he's hospitalized with a gunshot wound to his stomach. 10 News reporter Allison Ash looks at why police couldn't arrest him even after he was shot.
Watch as the man in the red shirt and shorts walks with his hands up to his car. He gets in, then emerges with this.
John!
Police officers immediately shout out a warning that he's armed, then take cover.
Okay, so, then boom, was shot from right here with a rifle.
The man went down, and for more than a half hour, police tried to convince him to move away from the gun.
And they couldn't approach him after they had him down because he still had the gun.
Finally, he got up from a seated position and walked to the shade of a nearby tree. Police slowly moved in and took him into custody.
The California coast tonight, a tense standoff at a neighborhood in Oakland. A man walking around with a rifle, taking shots, pointing his weapon at the news helicopter overhead. Then a police sharpshooter taking aim. And here's ABC's Neil Karlinski.
The first images from news helicopters were terrifying. A man sitting in the window of a home pointing a rifle outside.
Shots fired, shots fired. Male, white in with a rifle, blue sweater. He just shouted at us multiple times.
It was around 9 a.m. and callers were flooding 911 with reports that the man was shooting wildly.
This was a very dangerous situation.
At least one patrol car had bullet holes in the windshield, but police say none of their officers were hit.
Officer was driving down the street when he or she came under fire.
The man later walking out of the home, at one point clearly pointing his rifle at helicopters overhead. His behavior was bizarre, stopping and spray painting obscene graffiti on a garage door and the hood of a car. Residents were told to shelter in place. As the news helicopter came around the house, the man could be seen on the ground, his rifle next to him. A police sharpshooter took him down.
Sniper respond to the shot. I'm showing you down in the driveway right now. Still moving.
The suspect is listed in serious condition tonight. There is still no known motive. Police say it's just lucky no one else was hurt.
Good morning. Police say the officers received a 911 call that Blevins had a gun and was shooting into the air. Now prosecutors say body cam footage proves their version of events, but it also has the community questioning whether the officers needed to shoot.
He's got a gun. Put your hands up now!
Police body cam footage shows the moment officers Justin Schmidt and Ryan Kelly confronted Thurman Blevins.
Put your hands up! You got a gun, mother...
You can hear Blevins begging officers not to shoot.
Put your hands up! Leave me alone!
Just a few seconds later, they opened fire 14 times. 4 of those shots hit Blevins. He died on the scene.
In order to bring charges against a police officer, the state must be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the officer's use of deadly force was not authorized.
Hennepin County Attorney Mike Friedman cleared Officer Schmidt and Kelly from wrongdoing Monday. He claims Blevins' disregard for police instructions and his allegedly pointing a gun at officers justified the shooting.
Uncertain and rapidly evolving situations.
But as Freeman made his announcement, Blevins' family and community activists shouted him down. They claim Blevins was not a threat and accused officers of escalating the situation.
These officers were not afraid of my cousin when they approached him. That's clear as day on the video footage.
Did you guys see a drunk black guy with a gun around here?
They're laughing and giggling in the car, asking people, hey, what's up? Hey, did you see a drunk black guy?
The Minneapolis community is still grappling with recent deadly shootings of unarmed black men, Philando Castile and Jamar Clark. No officers were found guilty in either incident. But following the release of this new footage, the head of the police union called these officers' actions heroic.
The officers deserve the Minneapolis Police Department's highest award, the Medal of Honor.
Last week, 2 black men, Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, were shot and killed by police in Louisiana and Minnesota. They allegedly were armed. A white man who aimed his shotgun at passing motorists and officers in Raleigh, North Carolina, was taken into custody unharmed. According to reports, the Raleigh police responded to a report last Tuesday that William Ray, age 62, was pointing a shotgun at people as they drove by. As officers approached Ray, Wake County Sheriff Donnie Harrison told reporters last week he became belligerent and raised his weapon. Donnie Farmer, a deputy at the scene, was able to push the barrel of Ray's gun away. No one was injured.